First contact and deception. The quantum resonance detector aboard the UES Horizon chirped its familiar alert tone, but this time was different. Dr. Sarah Chen's eyes widened as she studied the readout. After 15 months of deep space exploration, they'd finally found something worth reporting. Captain Reynolds, she called over the comm, her voice steady despite her racing heart. You need to see this. The signal was unlike anything in their database, a perfectly ordered sequence of prime numbers, but encoded in a way that suggested technological advancement far beyond current human capabilities. It originated from what appeared to be a small research vessel hiding in the shadow of a gas giant's largest moon. Captain Michael Reynolds arrived at the science station minutes later, his weathered face reflecting both excitement and concern. Talk to me, Doctor. What are we looking at? It's definitely artificial, sir. The signal pattern indicates consciousness. They want to be found. Sarah pulled up a holographic display showing the signal's complex structure. But there's something else. The carrier wave. It's like they're using quantum entanglement for instantaneous communication. Reynolds studied the data, his military training warring with scientific curiosity. Humanity had theorized about such technology, but had never managed to make it work. Could be a trap, he mused. The Arcturus incident taught us to be cautious. Sarah nodded, remembering the disastrous first contact attempt from 5 years ago that had cost hundreds of lives. But something felt different this time. Sir, the signal's complexity suggests they could have attacked already if that was their intention. I think they're waiting to see how we respond. Agreed. But we play this by the book. Reynolds straightened his uniform. Alert status yellow. Shield generators on standby. Begin first contact protocols. The bridge crew moved with practiced efficiency as the Horizon slowly approached the alien vessel. It was smaller than their ship, with an elegant design that spoke of advanced engineering. All smooth curves and iridescent surfaces that seemed to bend light around them. The first visual transmission came through clear and sharp, revealing beings that appeared almost humanoid, but with subtle differences that spoke of evolution on a different world. Their skin had a slight bluish tinge, and their eyes were larger, adapted to a dimmer sun. The alien who spoke wore what appeared to be a formal uniform. Greetings, humans of Earth, the alien said in perfect English, causing a ripple of surprise through the bridge. I am Research Director Zalin of the Consortium. We have been studying your transmissions for some time. Reynolds exchanged glances with Sarah before responding. I am Captain Michael Reynolds of the United Earth Ship Horizon. We come in peace and friendship. As do we, Captain. We have chosen this moment carefully. Your species has reached a critical point in its development. We believe it is time for proper introduction. But Sarah had noticed something in the transmission that made her blood run cold. The quantum signature of their communication didn't match the original signal that had drawn them here. Either the aliens had two completely different technologies for quantum communication. Unlikely, or something wasn't adding up. She discreetly passed a note to Reynolds. Signal inconsistency, possible deception. Reynolds maintained his diplomatic smile while typing a command into his console, initiating a deep scan of the alien vessel. The results came back moments later, revealing energy readings far higher than a simple research vessel should produce. We are honored by your interest in Earth, Reynolds continued smoothly. Perhaps we could arrange a face-to-face meeting to discuss cultural exchange. That would be most welcome, Zalin replied. Our ship's conference room is prepared to receive you. Actually, Reynolds countered, protocol requires first meetings take place on neutral ground. We could establish a temporary station in space between our vessels. A flicker of something, annoyance, concern, crossed Zalin's features. Our atmosphere is perfectly compatible with human physiology. We have studied your biology extensively. Sarah's fingers flew across her console, analyzing the alien ship's power fluctuations. The energy signature matched weapon systems, not life support. Their research vessel facade was crumbling. Extensively, Reynolds asked, his tone hardening slightly. And how exactly did you conduct these studies? The alien's expression changed, becoming more calculating. Your species broadcasts all its information freely into space. We merely listened. Interesting, Reynolds replied. Then you wouldn't mind explaining why your ship is carrying enough energy to power a small fleet, or why we're detecting weapons signatures that you're trying to mask. The facade dropped completely. Zalin's friendly expression vanished, replaced by cold efficiency. You are more perceptive than our studies indicated. Unfortunately, this complicates matters. Does it? Reynolds asked, buying time as his crew silently prepared for possible hostilities. I thought this was a peaceful research mission. Peace through understanding, Captain. Some species require closer observation than others. Your kind has shown remarkable potential. Too much potential to be left to develop unchecked. And who gave you the right to make that determination? Reynolds demanded, but he already knew they were past the point of diplomatic resolution. The alien ship's energy readings spiked, but the Horizon's crew hadn't been idle during the exchange. As the alien vessel's weapons powered up, they found their systems failing to respond. Affected by a virus, Sarah had quietly uploaded through their own quantum communication channel. Interesting thing about quantum entanglement. Sarah spoke up. Once you establish a connection, it works both ways. Reynolds allowed himself a small smile. Now, Research Director, shall we discuss the true nature of your mission, and perhaps why you're so interested in humanity's potential? The first move had been made. The deception was revealed. But as both ships hung in space, weapons armed but useless, it was clear this was only the beginning of a much larger game. The hidden truth. The next 48 hours aboard the UES Horizon were tense. Both ships maintained their positions, locked in a technological stalemate. While the alien vessel's weapons remained compromised by Dr. Chen's virus, the humans knew better than to assume they'd seen all of the consortium's capabilities. Sarah hadn't left her station except for brief rest periods, analyzing the vast amount of data they'd captured during their quantum link with the alien ship. What she found disturbed her deeply. Captain, she called Reynolds over for a private consultation. I've decoded some of their secure databases. The consortium, they're not just one species studying us. They're a collection of civilizations, all focused on monitoring developing worlds. Reynolds leaned over her station, examining the translated alien text. How many worlds are we talking about? Hundreds, maybe thousands. Earth isn't special to them. We're just another experiment. Sarah pulled up a galactic map that made Reynolds' breath catch. Scattered throughout their arm of the galaxy were countless observation posts, hidden stations, and monitoring facilities. But here's the strange part. They're scared. Of us? Reynolds raised an eyebrow. Of what we might become. Sarah brought up another file. According to their research, humanity has shown an unprecedented rate of technological advancement. We went from first powered flight to landing on our moon in just 66 years. From splitting the atom to quantum computing in less than a century. It took most species millennia to make similar progress. Before Reynolds could respond, Lieutenant Park's voice cut through the bridge. Captain, energy spike from the alien vessel. But instead of an attack, a new transmission came through, this time from a different alien. The being that appeared on screen was clearly of another species than Zalin, with crystalline features and eyes that seemed to glow from within. I am High Observer Valthrix, the being announced. Your response to our evaluation has forced an acceleration of our plans. We will speak properly now. Reynolds straightened. You mean honestly this time. Necessity dictated our previous approach. Your species' potential is matched only by your unpredictability. We had to understand if you could penetrate our deception. And now that we have, now we must discuss the true crisis. Valthrix's crystalline features shifted in what might have been concern. Your species is not the first to advance so rapidly, but you are the first to do so while maintaining your unique characteristics. Sarah's console beeped as new data streamed in, freely shared this time. Her eyes widened as she processed it. "Captain, they're showing us their full research. It's incredible and terrifying." The data revealed a pattern. Species that advanced as quickly as humanity had invariably destroyed themselves or become cold, calculating machines of pure logic. The consortium had formed specifically to prevent such outcomes, guiding developing civilizations toward stable, sustainable growth. Your emotional capacity, your creativity, your ability to make intuitive leaps of logic. These traits usually diminish as species advance, Valthrix explained. Yet humans have retained them, even enhanced them. This creates possibilities we had not considered, and risks we cannot ignore. Risks? Reynolds challenged. Or opportunities? Perhaps both. Valthrix's form shimmed slightly. We have detected another rapidly advancing species at the edge of known space. They do not share humanity's balance of logic and emotion. They are pure efficiency, expansion, and consumption. Our models predict they will reach Earth's sector within 50 years. Sarah's hands trembled as she examined the data about this new threat. The readings were like nothing she'd ever seen. A civilization that had transformed entire solar systems into machinery, consuming resources at an astronomical rate. "You're not just studying us," she realized aloud. "You're evaluating if we can help you fight them." Intelligence without creativity cannot defend against creativity guided by intelligence, Valthrix confirmed. Our civilizations have grown too predictable. We need humanity's chaos, your ability to conceive solutions we would never consider. Reynolds absorbed this, his tactical mind already racing with implications. "And if we refuse to be your weapons, then we will respect your choice, withdraw our observation posts, and prepare for the end of organized civilization in this sector of the galaxy." Valthrix's direct response carried the weight of absolute certainty. "We calculate a 99.97% probability of total defeat without human assistance." Sarah pulled up the details of the consortium's predictive models, checking their math. The algorithms were far beyond human mathematics, but the logic was sound. If anything, she suspected they were being optimistic. "There's something else," she said, finding a hidden pattern in the data. "The quantum technology you're using. You didn't develop it yourselves, did you?" Valthrix's crystalline form darkened slightly. "No. We discovered it in the ruins of a civilization that vanished long ago. We've learned to use it, but never to truly understand it. Your Dr. Chen's virus proved humans might comprehend its principles better than we do." Reynolds shared a look with Sarah, both recognizing the implications. The consortium wasn't just seeking allies. They were admitting humans might surpass them, given time. Their fear suddenly made much more sense. "We'll need to verify everything you've told us," Reynolds said finally, "and any cooperation would require full disclosure. No more hidden observation posts, no more deception." "Agreed," Valthrix replied immediately. "Though you should know, your sector contains 37 observation posts. In the time we've been talking, your Dr. Chen has already located 22 of them through our quantum network." Sarah tried to hide her smile, but didn't quite succeed. She had indeed been tracing their network, though she'd only found 18 posts so far. The fact that they'd noticed and chose to help rather than try to stop her spoke volumes. "Perhaps," Valthrix continued, "we could begin by sharing our full understanding of quantum mechanics. Your interpretation already seems to exceed ours in some areas." Reynolds nodded slowly. "That would be an acceptable start. But first, I need to contact Earth. Our governments need to be involved in any decisions about humanity's role in galactic affairs. Of course, though you should know, several of your governments have already noticed some of our observation posts. They simply chose not to reveal this knowledge to their populations until they understood more." And with that bombshell, the true scope of humanity's situation began to dawn on the Horizon's crew. They weren't just making first contact. They were about to become key players in a galactic drama that had been unfolding for centuries. The only question was, were they ready for the role they were about to play? Rising tensions, The meeting room aboard the UES Horizon had never felt so crowded. 3 weeks after the initial contact, representatives from Earth's major powers sat across from a delegation of consortium species, with Captain Reynolds and Dr. Chen trying to maintain order between them. Absolutely not, General Zhang of the Asian Alliance declared, his holographic form flickering slightly. We will not allow alien military vessels in Earth orbit, regardless of their stated intentions. Valthrix's crystalline form pulsed with what they'd learned was frustration. The defensive grid must be established before the harvesters reach this sector. Every day of delay increases the risk. The harvesters, Admiral Santos from the Americas Coalition, cut in, whose existence we only have your word for. Convenient that this terrible threat requires us to accept your technology and your presence in our space. Sarah Chen watched the exchanges with growing concern. The quantum data feeds were still streaming between the ships, and what she was seeing painted an increasingly dire picture. She cleared her throat, drawing attention. With respect, she began, I've been analyzing the quantum resonance patterns from the edge of charted space. The harvesters are real, and they're moving faster than the consortium's initial estimates suggested. She projected a holographic display showing wave patterns that made the military representatives lean forward. These energy signatures match exactly what we'd expect from massive-scale matter conversion. Entire planets being transformed into machinery and computational substrates. Dr. Chen has consistently proven herself capable of understanding our technology at levels that surprise even us, Valthrix added. If she confirms our data, perhaps. That's exactly what concerns us, interrupted Dr. Yuki Tanaka, Earth's leading xenobiologist. The ease with which humans are adapting to and improving upon your technology. Why give us these advantages if you don't intend to control us? Reynolds noticed Zalin, the research director from their first contact, shift uncomfortably. You have something to add, he prompted. Zalin began, then looked to Valthrix, who nodded. We recently discovered that humans have begun independently developing quantum communication technology. Dr. Chen's virus wasn't just clever programming. It worked because she intuitively understood principles we thought impossible for a developing species to grasp. The room erupted in overlapping conversations until Reynolds called for order. Explain, he demanded. Sarah's eyes widened as she processed the implications. The quantum entanglement experiments at CERN, she whispered, then louder. 3 months ago, Earth scientists achieved stable quantum entanglement at a macroscopic scale. The consortium didn't give us this technology. We were about to discover it ourselves. Which means, Valthrix continued, humanity would soon have found our observation posts anyway. Our choices were to reveal ourselves now, as potential allies, or face you later as possible adversaries. General Zhang's hologram stood. So you admit you saw us as a threat? We saw you as equals, Zalin corrected. Do you understand how rare that is? How many species we've watched rise and fall? Humanity is different. You don't just use technology. You understand it, improve it, see possibilities we miss. The tension in the room shifted subtly. Earth's representatives exchanged glances, decades of Cold War diplomacy allowing them to communicate volumes in silent looks. Admiral Santos spoke carefully. You're saying you need us. Not just as soldiers against these harvesters, but as innovators, partners. Yes, Valthrix admitted. Our civilizations have grown. Stagnant. We maintain technology we inherited from ancient species, but we rarely advance it. Humans take technology and immediately begin asking, what else can this do? Sarah's console beeped an urgent alert. Speaking of what technology can do, she interrupted, I'm detecting massive quantum fluctuations from the edge of the solar system. Something's coming. The alien representatives stiffened in what Reynolds recognized as alarm. Valthrix's crystalline form darkened. Impossible. Our models gave us decades before. It's not the harvesters, Sarah announced, her fingers flying over her controls. The quantum signature is. It's like yours, but more refined, more elegant. A new hologram appeared in the center of the room, showing a massive ship emerging from what appeared to be a fold in space itself. Its design was organic and flowing, unlike either human or consortium vessels. The predecessors, Zullen breathed. The ones who built the quantum network, they're supposed to be extinct. Evidently not, Reynolds observed dryly. And I'm guessing they've noticed we're playing with their technology. The new ship broadcast no signals, made no attempt at communication. It simply hung in space at the system's edge. Its presence an unspoken statement that changed everything about their negotiations. Well, Admiral Santos said into the heavy silence, it seems humanity isn't the only surprise factor in this equation. Perhaps we should discuss how to proceed with our new observers. Agreed, Valthrix replied, their crystalline form now pulsing with colors humans were learning to recognize as anxiety. But first, Dr. Chen, what else can you tell us about their quantum signature? As you say, humans have a gift for seeing possibilities we miss. Sarah was already deep in analysis, her expression shifting from confusion to amazement. They're not just using quantum entanglement for communication. They're using it for everything. Their entire ship is a quantum construct. The possibilities. She trailed off, lost in calculations, while the representatives of 3 different ages of galactic civilization considered their positions. The predecessors watching silently from the edge of the solar system. The consortium caught between fear of humanity's potential and fear of the approaching harvesters. And humanity itself, suddenly finding itself at the center of events that would shape the future of the galaxy. Reynolds looked around the room, seeing the same realization dawn on all faces, human and alien alike. There would be no simple solutions, no clear path forward. The only certainty was that everything was about to change. The human factor. The predecessor ship had maintained its position at the edge of the solar system for 3 days, silent and inscrutable. In that time, Dr. Sarah Chen hadn't slept more than a few hours, too engrossed in the quantum readings that poured from her instruments. She was on her 6th cup of coffee when she noticed something that made her sit up straight. Captain Reynolds, she called out, her voice carrying the edge of discovery. I need you to see this. Reynolds arrived at her station moments later, followed by Valthrix and a small contingent of Earth's military leaders who had taken up temporary residence on the horizon. The predecessor ship, Sarah explained, pulling up a complex display of quantum interactions. It's not just watching us. It's teaching. Teaching. Admiral Santos leaned forward, her holographic form flickering slightly. Explain. Sarah's fingers danced across her console, highlighting patterns in the quantum noise. Their quantum fluctuations aren't random. They're structured, like textbooks written in mathematics, the most elegant mathematics I've ever seen. We have detected no such patterns, Valthrix stated, their crystalline form shifting in what humans now recognized as confusion. Because you're looking for communication in the way you understand it, Sarah replied. But they're not trying to talk to us. They're showing us how their technology works. Look. She pulled up a series of equations that made the consortium representatives pulse with surprise. The mathematics described quantum interactions at a level that made their own understanding seem primitive by comparison. Dr. Chen, General Zhang's hologram stepped closer. Are you saying you can understand their technology? Not entirely, Sarah admitted. But I'm starting to see the principles behind it. And more importantly, I'm seeing how it connects to something we were already working on back on Earth. She brought up another display, this one showing research from her old laboratory. We've been trying to develop quantum shielding, a way to protect ships and installations from quantum-based weapons. We had the basic concept right, but we were missing crucial elements. The predecessor's equations fill in the gaps. Valthrix's form darkened. You were developing quantum defenses, without even knowing the full nature of quantum technology. That's what humans do, Reynolds said with a slight smile. We see possibilities and we explore them, even if we don't have all the pieces yet. Before anyone could respond, Lieutenant Park's voice cut through the bridge. Multiple quantum signatures detected. Harvester scout ships just appeared at the edge of the Kuiper Belt. The room erupted into action. The Harvester scouts were decades ahead of predictions, likely drawn by the unusual quantum activity in the solar system. On the main screen, they appeared as dark, angular shapes that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. "They're scanning the system," Sarah reported, watching her readings. "Their quantum technology, it's different from both ours and the predecessors. More aggressive, less elegant. They're trying to breach our quantum communications. Can they succeed?" Reynolds demanded. Sarah's hands flew over her controls. "Not if." "Yes, Captain. Permission to attempt something incredibly risky." Reynolds knew that tone in her voice. It was the same one she'd used before uploading the virus to the consortium ship. "What are you thinking?" "The predecessors weren't just teaching us about quantum shielding," Sarah explained quickly. "They were showing us how quantum fields can be interwoven. If I can combine our partial quantum shield technology with their principles of field interaction." "Do it," Reynolds ordered, trusting his science officer's instincts. Sarah initiated her program, and for a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then the quantum readings from her console began to spike in patterns that made even Valthric step back in surprise. The Harvester scouts had begun to move into the system, their forms distorting space around them. But as they approached, they encountered something unprecedented, a quantum field that adapted to their attempts to breach it, learning from each attack and strengthening itself. "Impossible," Valthrix whispered. "You've created a learning quantum defense grid by combining primitive human theories with predecessor principles." "Not just defensive," Sarah corrected, her eyes locked on her readings. "Watch." The quantum field wasn't just blocking the Harvester scouts. It was actively interfering with their systems. Where they tried to establish quantum links, they found their connections redirected or dissolved. Their attempts to scan the system were turned back on themselves, confusing their sensors. "They're retreating," Admiral Santos announced, watching the tactical display. "Whatever you did, Dr. Chen, it worked." "For now," Sarah cautioned. "But they'll be back, and they'll have learned from this encounter. We need to understand more of what the predecessors are trying to teach us." As if in response to her words, the predecessor ship shifted for the first time since its arrival. New quantum patterns emerged from it, more complex than before, but somehow clearer to Sarah's understanding. "They're not just teaching us technology," she realized aloud. "They're teaching us how to think about it differently. The Harvesters use quantum mechanics as a tool. The consortium uses it as a found technology. But the predecessors, they understand it as a fundamental property of reality itself." Reynolds watched the retreating Harvester scouts on his tactical display. "And humans?" Sarah smiled slightly. "We're doing what we always do, taking different ideas and combining them in ways no one expected. The predecessors have the deep understanding. The consortium has the practical experience, and we have the creativity to put it all together in new ways." "And that," Valthrix observed, their crystalline form glowing brighter, "is precisely why the Harvesters came here early. They recognize the threat of that combination." "Not a threat," Reynolds corrected. "An opportunity. The Harvesters see the universe as resources to be consumed. The consortium sees it as a system to be managed. The predecessors see it as patterns to be understood. But humans, we see it as a frontier to be explored." Sarah completed his thought. "And now we have the beginnings of the technology to do just that." The predecessor ship pulsed with new quantum signatures, patterns that Sarah recognized as approval. The first test had been passed, but it was clear this was only the beginning. The real challenges and opportunities still lay ahead. New horizons. 1 month after the Harvester Scout incident, the solar system had been transformed. A network of quantum detection buoys stretched from Mercury to the Kuiper Belt, their design a unique fusion of human innovation, consortium experience, and predecessor principles. The UES Horizon had become the center of an unprecedented collaborative effort, its labs filled with scientists from 3 different civilizations working together. Dr. Sarah Chen stood at her familiar station, but now she was surrounded by holographic displays showing quantum mechanics formulae that would have been incomprehensible just weeks ago. Beside her, a crystalline consortium scientist and a shadowy figure that was their first direct contact with a predecessor worked in harmony. "The integration is complete," Sarah announced, watching the final quantum signatures align. "The defense grid is fully operational." Captain Reynolds nodded from his command chair, where he sat with representatives from all 3 civilizations. And not a moment too soon. Long-range quantum sensors are detecting major harvester fleet movements. "Let them come," Admiral Santos said from her position at the tactical station. "Thanks to Dr. Chen's innovations, we're ready for them." "It's not just my innovations," Sarah corrected. "What we've built here is something entirely new. The predecessors provided the fundamental understanding. The consortium contributed centuries of practical experience. And we humans, we found ways to combine it all that nobody had considered." Valthrix's crystalline form pulsed with what they now knew was appreciation. "Your species has an extraordinary gift for lateral thinking. In 1 month, you've advanced our understanding of quantum mechanics more than we had in centuries." The predecessor representative, who had introduced itself simply as observer, created a series of complex quantum patterns that their universal translators rendered as speech. "You see connections where others see barriers. This is why we chose to reveal ourselves." Sarah turned to observer, still amazed that she was casually conversing with a member of a civilization they had thought extinct. "You were waiting for a species that could bridge the gap between theoretical understanding and practical application. We were waiting for those who could understand without losing their capacity to imagine," observer corrected. "Many species master quantum mechanics. Few retain the ability to dream of its possibilities." The bridge crew's attention was drawn to a new alert from the quantum detection grid. The harvester fleet was accelerating, but something about their approach had changed. "They're not moving in a standard attack formation," Reynolds noted, studying the tactical display. "Their pattern is defensive." Sarah analyzed the quantum signatures. "They're scared," she realized. "They've encountered something they can't simply consume and process. Our quantum grid doesn't just defend. It adapts and learns. It's outside their understanding of how technology should work." "Because it's not just technology," Valthrix observed. "It's a synthesis of 3 different ways of viewing the universe. The harvesters can't predict what we'll do because we're not operating by any single set of rules." Observer's form shifted, creating patterns that Sarah recognized as amusement. "And now you understand why we remained hidden for so long. We were waiting for those who could help create something truly new." The quantum grid hummed with energy as the harvester fleet approached. But instead of attacking, they held position just outside the solar system's boundary. After a tense moment, they transmitted a signal, not a demand or a threat, but a request for communication. "Well," Reynolds said with a slight smile, "this is unexpected." "Not really," Sarah replied. "The harvesters operate on pure logic. When faced with something they can't overcome through force, they adapt. They want to understand what we've created here." "The question is," Admiral Santos interjected, "do we share our knowledge with a civilization that considers all others as resources to be consumed?" Observer's quantum patterns shifted thoughtfully. "Perhaps that is the next challenge. Not merely defending against them, but finding a way to help them evolve beyond their current limitations, just as humans helped the consortium move past their stagnation, and as the predecessors helped us understand the deeper patterns of reality," Sarah added. She turned to Reynolds. "Captain, I have an idea. The quantum grid doesn't just defend, it communicates. What if we could use it to show the harvesters a different way of viewing the universe?" Reynolds studied her for a moment, then looked to the representatives of their alien allies. "A month ago, we were just beginning to understand quantum mechanics. Now we're talking about using it to change the fundamental outlook of an entire civilization. He shook his head with a wry smile. Why not? It seems to be what humans do best, finding unexpected solutions to impossible problems. The bridge crew worked together, human innovation combining with consortium experience and predecessor wisdom. The quantum grid transformed from a defense system into something new, a bridge between different ways of thinking, a tool for understanding as much as protection. As the first exchanges of information began with the Harvester fleet, Sarah felt a profound sense of rightness. Humanity had found its place not as soldiers or servants, but as bridges between different ways of seeing the universe. Their gift wasn't just technology or creativity, but the ability to help different civilizations understand each other. You know, she said to no one in particular, when we launched the Horizon, we were looking for new worlds to explore. Instead, we found new ways of thinking. And that, observers' quantum patterns formed words of approval, is the greatest exploration of all. The quantum grid pulsed with energy as knowledge flowed between four very different civilizations. Above Earth, ships of radically different designs hung in space. The elegant curves of predecessor vessels, the crystalline structures of consortium ships, the angular forms of harvester craft, and the practical, sturdy bulk of human vessels. Different approaches, different philosophies, different ways of seeing the universe, all working together to create something new. It wasn't the future anyone had expected. It was better. And as Sarah watched the quantum patterns flow between the ships, she knew this was just the beginning. The real adventure, the exploration of possibilities that arose when different ways of thinking came together, was just getting started.